Hello again, students. Okay, let's try this again. So I was busy speaking to you about the difference between um, looking at it from the perspective of the advertiser versus the perspective of the radio station. Okay, so let's quickly revise. You can see over here, make suggestions as to how the radio station can use one, targeted, and two, performance-based advertising to help them reach their ultimate goal, which is to stay in business. Okay, so guys, you can see on the right-hand side there the benefit of applying the suggestion, which is to use research to prove why implementing your recommendation will contribute to turning the business around. One credible, relevant source per recommendation is enough. So you have to use credible and relevant sources. Okay, let's move on then to the next slide. Okay, so guys, here's an example. I'm going to read this for you, and then I'm going to, I don't know if I can go back on this thing. I can't. Okay, this is going to make it difficult to read these, but we'll sort it out moving forward. I'll just have to reformulate these things over here. But let's see. On the left-hand side, you can see over here the station's biggest assets are its passionate and skilled workforce of journalists and hosts who love telling stories about the brand. This is pure branding gold. Okay, so it's very good for the MyFM brand. Okay, so you can see over here the example. The assistant station manager should formulate a plan for using the journalists, pardon the spelling mistake there, and hosts to come up with good ideas to promote the radio station using their storytelling skills. Okay, and then you can see over here on the slide, we begin with the whole thing and we give you an example of how to go through it. So you can see on the left-hand side, we're speaking about, what the biggest assets are, how you would then use that, and then, of course, this is how you would write it up in the right-hand side. So according to Jin and Suk, the fourth element of e-branding is communities. Here, Bedbury concurs, and while seeing the importance of technology, notes that relevance, simplicity, and humanity, not technology, will distinguish brands in the future, and relates this to the importance of 7 core values that have been identified: simplicity, patience, relevance, accessibility, humanity, omnipresence, and innovation. Buncombe believes this rides on the principle of emotional attachments, love, friendship, togetherness, loyalty, which are important for emotional selling, all of which, says Buncombe, people are striving for in a technology-satiated society. So as this relates to MyFM, this would be your answer. It can be argued that the age-old adage of the more things change, the more they stay the same applies. What people want and have always wanted from a Maslowian point of view is a connection to other human beings. So what we're saying here is by weaving the story of how interconnected MyFM is to the community and using their skills to tell the story, the journalists and hosts at the radio station are including their lives, inculcating their lives into the lives of the community, which is a surefire way to foster strong and long-lasting human bonds. Okay, guys, you can see over here branding stories on the left-hand side. You can see every brand would strive for creating branding gold. Think of what we discussed in class about a brand like Apple. So why is Apple so successful? You guys all said because it continues to surpass needs. It surprises and delights every single time. That's why, I mean, I'm not a fan of Apple, as you guys know, but you guys say that it anticipates things that you never even realized that you would need, which is a really clever way of staying ahead of the trend curve and continuing to innovate. So you can see over here the second column, and we'll have to redo these in the future so that they're not all broken up like this. Okay, so you want to get your people to come up with creative ideas to innovate at the radio station. So for example, you could say to them, have a meeting with them and say, guys, I'm sure you know that we need to change, adapt or die, as I say. I think you guys are exceptionally talented and creative. Please provide me with some ideas of how you can use storytelling to promote the radio station in the community, and then how you can use that storytelling to work it into advertising to make the advertising really effective. Okay, so you can see I've written over here, the success with a strategic move is that it could be used to promote a strong connection between MyFM and the community. which could then become a selling point for targeted advertising. For example, this is what a prospective advertiser on the station could be told using a live read or a station advert. When you advertise with MyFM, you're connecting to the heart of the community. Journalists and radio hosts have intimate knowledge of the people who live and work in X. So X could be Alex, for example. Powerfully reach a target market of 50,000 people as an example, and watch your brand grow roots in our neighborhoods. And these are examples of some of the sources that I use. You can see the Bedbury and Gin and Souk. So you see I've written there, this is a very good answer as it contextualizes your practical recommendation with an application to branding theory. The only weakness with the answer is 1, there is not enough sentence integration between the sources and the recommendation. 2, there should really be a source for the reference to Maslow. 3, one of the sources refers to loyalty, which may be misinterpreted as brand loyalty, so you would need to clarify this. And 4, there could be some theory about the radio advertising, but remember guys, no answer is ever perfect, so do your best, and that is always good enough. So guys, just to give you an overview, because you might be reading this and saying, Rob, this makes absolutely no sense to me. What I wanted to say to you guys is, if you, as the radio station, let's say you were the station manager, okay, and you went to your journalists and your hosts and said, create stories for me. I know you want to do this because you're passionate about the MyFM brand. Create stories for me and involve the community, how you interact with the community. Let's put this on a YouTube channel, okay, and we can use that then to see how we're going to increase engagement with the brand. You could then use pieces of that YouTube channel, you could cut and paste, and you could create an advert around that and say to people, guys, if you advertise on the radio station, you are taking your brand into this community and you are basically becoming part of this community. It's like sitting around a campfire in this community, and you are there and you are part of the community, and that is how you will grow your brand. So you can see that meets two major objectives. The first objective is you pulling your staff in and using this fantastic resource of these wonderful staff who want to engage with the brand and who want to promote the radio station because they love MyFM. Okay, and then what you're also doing is you are looking at pulling the community in towards the brand, or the brand of the community, and you are fostering those strong ties. So basically you have almost like a trio, a very strong triangle between the community, the radio station, and the advertiser. And what you do there is you create the strength of bond, and it satisfies all the needs. You're creating advertising revenue for the radio station, you're connecting it to the community, so you're increasing your listenership, and you're also providing willing hearts and minds and ears and eyes for the advertiser to connect with people. Okay, so guys, these are clever ways that you can do this. Okay, so let's have a look then. Okay, so we said here this is a good answer. So speaking over here, this column over here, you can see we have exceptionally talented and creative people. Please provide me with suggestions on how you think you can take our message to the people to better connect with our community. And guys, the mark for this above example, or this recommendation, would be 2.5 out of 3. Okay, so you can see the criteria below, and then I'm gonna add the video links in afterwards when you access this, so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so guys, I hope this makes sense. Remember, I'm always available to speak to you if you have any questions. If none of this makes sense, then you can let me know. Cool. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so guys, recommendation 2, you can use the following as a template. When MyFM approaches potential advertisers with proposals for signing up for advertising, they can help them formulate a plan as to exactly what their KPIs and ROI should be. This will help them to justify the cost and also assist when they do their marketing reporting. Okay, so guys, remember KPIs are key performance indicators and ROI is return on investment. So remember, a radio station or an advertiser has to be able to go to their bosses and to their people that they report to and say, we spent 100,000 Rand on radio advertising this month. Okay, but that 100,000 Rand led to 200,000 Rand in sales. So our return on investment was 2 to 1. Okay, and you need to be able to prove that that the radio campaign was the real reason for why return on investment was in place. Now, it's not always that easy to do. It's very hard because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with lots of variables, and it's quite hard to track. But you need to be able to try to do that. And the more you try, the more you'll see that you'll get some traction out of it. Okay, so guys, you can see over there, this will attract listeners because ... and according to you, there's a relevant, credible source, and you can have an in-text citation and or paraphrase. So, for example, an example of this that I've got over here is could be to create a call to action radio campaign, host a competition with the radio station and the brand by getting listeners to call in or SMS or WhatsApp. The presenters or hosts could read out the messages live on air that are coming from participants, create a set of entry criteria, and then choose a winner. The campaign meets a number of objectives in that: 1, it connects the station and the advertiser to the community; 2, it's fun and entertaining; and 3, it is measurable so the advertiser can report back on how many people entered and how much exposure their brand got. And then 4, it ties back to the idea of allocating more airtime to advertisers, but in a fun story-like way, which will make the station manager and the board of MyFM happy. So guys, you can really use your creativity here to come up with great campaigns that can involve the community. So let's contextualize this a bit more for you guys and say, let's say for example, you had the radio station. Okay, and let's say you had a competition. Let's say you got an advertising. So let's really contextualize this. Let's say MyFM is a student radio station based in Sandton, very similar to BMH Radio. Okay. Students, what do students always want? Students are always looking for loans, or students are always looking for bargains and discounts. So let's say this is a company that provides loans to students, okay, at a reasonable cost, not too expensive, not too much, and the interest repayments are low, so you could then be able to go back to your parents and say, hey mom, if you can't afford to pay for the studies, we can get a loan from this company and the interest repayments are very low, it's like 5% per annum or something. Okay, so let's say that is your advertiser. Now the advertiser wants to obviously make money, so they're going to say, we're going to give out R1 million worth of loans, and we want to get 5% back on that in interest repayments. It probably would never be that low. Let's call it 10%. Okay, so we're going to get 10% back, and so we're going to make 1.1 million rand. We're going to make 100,000 rand profit for the loans. Okay, and we're going to spend 50,000 rand, because it's a community radio station, on a radio campaign. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get people to phone in, and we're going to say to people, phone in or WhatsApp or text us via SMS, and tell us what your favorite college is to study at, and why, and what you'd like to study. And then what you do is you say, okay, so Sipho from Sandton calls in and says, I really want to study at Boston because Boston's an amazing place, and I want to study media because I love media, and it's really cool, so I hope that I win this competition. Okay, and then Maggie calls in and says, I really want to study at UJ because I want to do accounting, because I want my family to be able to rely on me financially when I'm older, because we need to make money so we can do well financially in the future. And then Stephen calls in and says, oh, I really want to study actuarial science at Wits, because actuarial scientists can travel internationally and they have opportunities to work overseas. Okay, so and let's say, for example, then you can go back and you can say, okay, we had 20,000 people who entered the competition. Then you choose one winner, and one person gets their fees sponsored for the year. Okay, so then you need to be able to go back and say, okay, so fee sponsored for the year was 100,000 rand. Okay, the radio campaign cost us 50,000 rand. We made 1.1. We made 100,000 rands profit because we gave out R1 million worth of loans, but it probably would end up being more than that. And then you can literally calculate how much money you made and how effective the campaign may be. And remember, it may not necessarily give you a return on investment in terms of money. You might say, well, we didn't make that much money from it yet, because remember, you have to run campaigns for a while to start to see the benefits. However, we got this much engagement on social media, we got this many people entered the competition, we got a whole lot of publicity, and a whole bunch of newspapers said this is an innovative way to run a campaign. We put it on our blog posts, etc. So there are ways to measure this, and that would be performance-based advertising. So guys, you don't have to go into that much detail. Come up with ways of discussing how performance-based advertising can help MyFM reach its targets, which are to grow its advertiser base by growing its listenership base so that it can make money. Okay, I hope this makes sense. If you have questions, let's engage in class and then take it from there. Cool. Let's then run through the rubrics. Okay, so in terms of recommendation 1, you're going to get, oops, you're going to get no marks. Oh, crumbs, it went over again. I mustn't push the buttons. That obviously makes it move over. Crumbs. Okay, let me see if I can go back to the other slides. I don't think I can. Okay, I mustn't press buttons. If that's, let's see what makes it. Okay, guys, I'll have to do a part 3. Okay, thanks for listening. Speak to you just now.